Hello, one and all, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Omnipresent Information Connection. On this episode, Kevin and I are going to be talking about what follows when you've completed the 10 stepping stones to reaching a whole and complete you. If you listen back to the last 4 podcasts, the first one was on teaching and training, the second, motivating, the third, directing and guiding, and then the next 5 steps were all covered in one podcast, and those 5 steps are applying what you've learned from those first 5, trial and error, which can be a lengthy period or a short period of time, depending on how fast you can overcome the trials in your life, and then reaching out to other people and discovering who you can have a relationship with that is setting the example of what you want to become. And then you gain opportunities. Naturally, opportunities come into your life when you complete all those stepping stones. And then finally, emulating out the truth of who you are after you've taken all those stepping stones to a higher plateau of the authentic you.
Yes, no, because it is your message to the world. It is your mission statement, your vision statement. It is your true calling as far as who you are. And so that portion was being able to introduce yourself to a whole new world.
Right. So tell me, Kevin, when you become whole and complete, is it just a rinse and repeat type of process?
No, it's a redirection in your purpose, in your mission, in your vision, always being able to add in new elements, new learning experiences from every age that you grow.
Yes, thank you. And solid answer. I remember you telling us on other podcasts that it's only a rinse and repeat if you can't get clean the first time.
Correct.
So we've gone in depth on how to become whole and complete, and that, I would say, is one of the main choice topics of what we teach here on Omnipresent Information Connection. So let's really dig into, after these 10 stepping stones, what makes you you?
After you have successfully completed these 10 steps and this 10-step program, by the time you are done, not only do you know who you are, but you know whom you represent in this journey in a new way. You come to find out, you come to realize you have these discovery moments in your life to where reading books, listening to audiobooks, getting with a mentor, a leader, a coach, someone that you really look up to, you start to be able to blend all of these positive elements into your life, and all these positive elements become you. You become the living, breathing example setter for your everyday life. And that's very exciting, because many people only imitate and do not, with authentic expression, being able to alter or change not only the words that are spoken, but how they're said, right? It's just like pressing a record button and then playing it back and someone else hears the same message, right? But it's when you actually apply what you've actually learned, then you can create your own message, your own story, your own way of being able to get to that conclusion, but with us and through us in a new way, right?
Correct. Now, when you are in a point where you can do that, I believe that there's still some stumbling blocks that can make their way into our lives. One major one is pride. Because when you feel whole and complete as a person, it's very easy to call yourself, high and mighty.
Well, understand this, is that when you become whole and complete as a person, and it's 100% possible to do, pride, ego, arrogance are all things that you are immediately aware of,
Right.
that you don't go there because you don't need a shallow perspective on the deepest part of who you are.
Correct. Right.
So it gives you like headlights to be able to look down the path of your future and to be able to see that arrogance, ego, and all these other things that are negative may come into your path. But when you turn on the headlights in your pathway, things scatter. And that's all the negatives, right? So the negatives stay on the side of the road while you pass by those things because you have rebuked them enough. You have learned the trials and lessons learned enough that you have literally have created your own ruts of opportunity that now are called a pathway or a road now that you are walking. And as you are either walking or driving down this road, it is a road that you have constructed, not only with your mind, not only with your heart, but with your soul intention behind it. And when you then move forward in a positive way, putting one step in front of the other, putting the accelerator down a little bit faster and a little bit harder, right, is when you start motivating in a forward-focused mindset and mentality that needs no reverse. You don't need to be like whom in the Bible that turned to salt.
That would be Lot's wife.
That it would be. We all, at times, want to look back upon our lives.
Yeah, for those unfamiliar with the Bible story, as they were leaving Sodom at God's request, because he was going to conduct a judgment on this city, he told them specific instructions, extremely specific. Do not look back while the city's being destroyed behind you. And of course, a significant metaphor that's in this is looking back on worldly ways when you've already left them.
Yes. The power when you become whole and complete as a person is that you can start to immediately recognize, immediately see when those thought processes come up that you want to be able to look back and to entertain yourself on something that you've already overcome. Do you then realize that that is wasted time that you don't want to be able to do anymore?
Yes, and it's almost an immediate effect, like you were talking about when you're shining the headlights. You can see it.
So when you are on a forward moving progress, when you are literally failing forward, when you are putting one step in front of the other, each and every time that you are waking and going to bed, that almost that part in life is a rinse and repeat, because for many people, they wake up and they go to bed, right? Until your death, right?
For most people.
For most people. But when you're on your authentic pathway, when you are whole and complete as a person, you enjoy ripping off, literally, if you're in a car, your rearview mirror, because you know that nothing else is coming up behind you. Nothing is trying to pass you or surpass you because of the 10 elements that you have gone through, the 10-step program that we put you through that prevents that from happening or occurring in the first place. The reason why nothing can be able to pass you or to be able to come beside you is because the road is only big enough for your own entity. So imagine being able to run a race that you need not be able to run fast or slow. You run it at your own pace. Every time that you're on your pathway, you're winning. Everyone else is behind you. But there is one vision, one mission, one person that will always be ahead of you, cheering you on. And when you get to know my best friend, when you get to be able to know him as intimately as I do, not only is he the grand master of cheerleading, but he's the one that invented the momentum and the ability for us to be able to cheer in the first place. Now I'm talking about God, right?
Right.
So when I'm on my personal pathway, being whole and complete as a person, I have this brilliant white light, if you want to call it that, of nothing but purified energy that awaits me through every waking step, through every waking thought, through every waking action that I do is purified to the highest extent of what I know is to be true. Because as you know, every human has faults. We cannot be absolutely perfect because we cannot be God, correct? So with that being said, is that when there are those microscopic moments in my life to where I have a setback, the difference with other people is that I put my car into neutral versus drive, to where people that are not whole and complete actually put it into reverse, and they actually go back into a direction that God didn't want them to go in the first place.
Sure, or they're already moving forward and putting it in reverse and messing up their transmission a whole lot, getting in a crash.
Correct. But then here's the worst case scenario.
Well, what I'm trying to say is it's God's mercy that allows us to even go back in the first place or forward. But if you're moving backwards, it could just be a crash and burn scenario. So you got to be careful.
Right. But the greatest scenario is that when you recognize that you're going in a direction that isn't whole and complete from what you have just studied and become, sometimes it's good to put it into neutral, which means to be able to put it into God's hands, those things for which you have no power, no authority, no real way of being able to overcome it all by yourself. Instead of being able to keep it in drive, you slide it up into neutral to be able to just coast along with God to be able to overcome that obstacle or issue. And then, and only then, once that obstacle or issue is then conquered, then you slide it back into drive and you keep moving forward.
Right. Interesting note. When you're in neutral, the only way to keep moving forward is if you're on level ground or a slightly downward slope.
Absolutely.
You're not moving up the mountain.
Absolutely. So it's important to be able to know when to put it into neutral.
Exactly.
And you, with your intuition, with your instinct, with your knowledge, and with your educational awareness, will you know when to do it. And that's why the song is out. That's called Jesus Take the Wheel, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because there are some times that even putting it into neutral isn't enough. Sometimes you have to be able to put your hands up in the air as almost in a, don't shoot me pose when you're in the car, so that Jesus can be able to take the wheel, so that he can be able to ensure that not only is he going to put you back into drive, which is the divine inspiration that he bestows upon you. D actually is the divine inspiration that he bestows upon you, but he also will take the wheel of opportunity and to be able to keep it steadfast in the position, in a forward position, because he doesn't need to dodge and weave obstacles heading to himself, because he knows himself. So Therefore, it becomes straight and true every time that you are honest with you.
Wow, very powerful.
So it's important and imperative that when you become whole and complete as a person, that you trying is failing. And this is what I'm trying to get at.
Good catch.
No, I said that intentionally, right?
Okay. What are you trying to get at?
What I'm trying to get at is that trying is failing, but doing is succeeding, right? Everyone says, well, I'm trying to become a better person. What you're actually saying is that I'm trying to be able to convince enough people to be able to see what I'm doing, to be able to give you the impression that I'm actually doing what it takes.
Sure. I mean, that could be one.
But when you're actually doing what you want to talk about later, you're too busy doing it to be able to say that you're trying. Well, I'm trying one day. No. I'll eventually see you down the road actually doing what you said that you're going to try to do way back there, right? Eventually, you get to a point in time in your life to where you take vocabulary words out of your mouth that don't suit your purpose, your intention, and your mission and your vision for your life.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. That's definitely happened in my life, Kevin.
So this is where I'm getting at, is that when I said trying intentionally, it was to be able to resonate with you that how many other people have you ever heard say, well, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to lose weight, I'm trying to be able to do this, trying to do that, and you constantly see them on a quicksand level of experience without getting past the uncomfortable point of getting with someone else that has more knowledge, more wisdom to be able to get them through it and out of the quicksand, right?
Yeah, these subtle hints of negativity or positivity and simple words that we use on a daily basis, that awareness of those subtle hints really can be powerful in your life. Trying, the word try, I'm trying to, often comes with a negative kind of undertone that insinuates that a person is disappointed in that they're not there yet.
Correct.
If you hear someone saying, I'm doing my best, that often comes with, the motivation aspect, the motivational aspect of, I'm really going to get there type of feel.
Correct. But the person that is really trying to do their best is trying to fail the quickest that they can.
Yeah, whole new sentence.
And I know it sounds weird to be able to hear this, but here's what a trying person should say. I'm working on being able to perfect or to better myself in this area that would not only help me, but help other people as I'm going through this.
Correct. Or another one, I'm growing mastery over blank.
Right. So it's important in being whole and complete as a person, as a soul, to be able to use vocabulary to your advantage, not only for your soul's sake, but every soul that you come in contact with. So you get to be mindful and aware verbally of the things that are coming out of your mouth. That's why when Jesus spoke to people, he never said maybe, sometime, someday. He was very specific in how he spoke because he did not have enough time on earth to be able to draw out the elongated conclusion, right?
Right. Even when he was speaking about his second coming, of which he couldn't tell the exact day, date, and time because he says he didn't know, he was still being very specific about what was going to happen when he was getting close, when he was at the door.
Correct. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time to really take a deep breath and to be able to resonate with this information, because we all have done this prior to being whole and complete as a person, to be able to say things and do things that you would normally not say and or do because of the ramifications or because of the situation at hand. If you were to be able to remove the situation or the circumstance that caused you to be able to do it in the first place, being whole and complete, this is where your diary comes in. This is where proper communication with other people come in. This is where you actually start to be able to ask different questions, be able to have different responses be given to you as far as new techniques and ways of being able to have mental, physical, and spiritual clarity over the issue. But most importantly is that it becomes a personalized gift to you, for you, from God, to then another living human being to be able to be given as a gift versus a maybe or someday disappointment that anyone could give to anyone at any time, right?
Correct. Or it could turn out to be a fulfilled gift with the expectation of reward.
Yes.
Which can go very awry.
Right. So to be able to maximize its potential, you need to be able to maximize its ability. And so becoming whole and complete, you have more than at least 10 different thoughts going through your head at any given moment on how you possibly, maybe, could be able to overcome this obstacle issue. But you then have the educational mindset of being able to, well, maybe I need to pick up a book. Maybe I need to be able to call a mentor. Maybe I need to be able to watch someone that I value the most being able to give me an answer on a video, something of that nature.
Correct.
You know?
Yep. But
you start to be able to combat it with positive reinforcement ideas. And this is so critical and important. Positive reinforcement ideas versus just questioning or what ifing the situation. When you stop the what if game, you start to be able to then diagnose things differently because you now know that life in itself is a game. And the way to be able to win at life is to be able to emotionally, physically, spiritually be able to know when and when not to implement something into your life. So wholeness of character from the 10-step programs that we just have taught you then enables you, empowers you, and inspires you to be able to be consciously aware of what is happening in your environment. Then with your eyes to be able to physically see what is going on with the words that you're using. And then with your ears, you can be able to hear if the resonating power and the authority and the positive outcomes are happening for your life. So you can be able to physically embody the actual result in the flesh so that you can be able to continuously move one step in front of the other, just like when you were a child learning on how to walk, to be able to keep carrying the torch forward. And the torch is the wisdom, the knowledge, the information that is so authentic, so purified, so true, that it has nothing else left to do but to succeed with you and with Christ, right?
Amen.
So when you keep Christ ahead of you mentally, physically, spiritually, your walk every day is going to lead right back to him. When you have the right verbal thoughts coming out from your brain to your mouth and then into the universe, it's going right to your loving Savior, Jesus Christ, that wanted to hear them in the first place. Understand that emotionally, physically, spiritually, what you do is either a gift or a life sentence to another living soul. You need to be conscious and aware at all times of what you are inputting and outputting from your being to actually be a human being in the first place.
Powerful words, Kevin. When you say your words can either be a gift or a life sentence, I'm assuming here, because I've known you a long time, your way of words, that what you're saying is your words can be a life sentence, sentencing someone to imprisonment because of what you've said to them. And that's a very powerful thought. I just want to make sure that I'm interpreting your words right.
Yes, because who has ever told you that you were fat or too skinny or too blonde
Exactly.
or whatever, right?
Lead you to a lifelong imprisonment of a lack of self-esteem.
Correct. And because of that, nothing you can say or do then enables you to be you. Because what you're doing is you're adopting in the form of worship those words versus God's words. So now, for those people that are not godly that are listening to this podcast, now let us then be able to, if you don't want to put God in there, put your parents in there, put a best friend in there, put someone that you look up to that actually is setting the example for you in there, right?
Right. I can't imagine anyone who's a greater example setter than Jesus Christ, but like you said, Kevin, some people may not feel comfortable putting him on that kind of pedestal.
Well,
if you read the Gospels, he was one of the most authentic examples in any book that we have. I say he's the most authentic example. So really good person to learn from, even if you're not a quote-unquote Christian.
Mm-hmm. But why?
Well, think about it, Kevin. He's helped literally billions and still is helping billions of people in this world today. Even people who don't even know Christ through his disciples who are doing his work, who are feeding the hungry, who are clothing the naked, giving housing to people. All these types of things are being done on a massive scale by Christians. So no matter who you are, it's more than likely you've already benefited from the teachings of Jesus in some way, shape, or form. Now, if you have a problem with the psychology or the certain questions that you have about the Bible, that's one thing. But recognizing Jesus as authentic, that's something that anyone can do just by reading the accounts of his life based on the first-person testimony that was written about him.
But the most important thing that Jesus had as far as a position is that he had no other way. He didn't have the freedom, the flexibility to choose multiple different ways.
Right. He was the way.
He was the way. And so in order to be able to set the example is that you had to be able to establish the way for us to be able to have what's called leeway. And leeway is a release of authority and permission to be able to go into a different direction, right? So it's important to be able to do things in a new way, the way, right? We need to make things simple. We need to be able to bring back simplicity in our education. We need to break down the complex and make it simple. The reason why it's so complex right now, and the reason why it's so confusing right now, and the reason why things are happening right now is because there is very much so powerful people that don't have your back in your best interest at mind, trying to make it even much so more complicated and trying to be able to then take away your power to be able to rebuke it so that you can't even live it. Freedom of choice is the number one biggest thing that is being taken away. What does God do? He gave you free will.
Correct.
And when God gives you free will, he gives you everything, not just a few things. Everything is open and available to you. And because of your free will and because of your commitment, you then become nailed to your responsibilities because you're nailing it. You're actually living it. You're actually breathing it. You're actually becoming it. Whatever your title is. Whether it's a professor, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a truck driver, whether it's a dancer, whatever it is constantly growing you to be your best self today. So it's important and imperative that you know what it is so that you know how to be able to guide it in the direction of the life that you want to manifest today. And when you do that in each and every way by the Word of God, everything in front of your path will come true, because so is God. There is no fake, phony facade in the truth, right? So when you get fired up, when you get motivated, when you get excited about your life, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you actually love yourself so unconditionally, you start crying because all the lies are just flowing right out of your eyeballs that you just can't help it, and that this overabundance amount of love just radiates through your being, and you start getting this warm feeling, and it just really starts from the tips of your toes and goes all the way straight to your head, and you just have nothing else but blessings and thankfulness for being able to have this experience in the first place. When you see the authentic you absolutely know who you are, and so does everyone around you too. That is, my friends, called the gift. And that is what is called life. When you get dialed into you, everyone you know can't wait to be with you too. That's where, as a child of God, that's where I have made a commitment to God to be able to try to get as close to and as intimately as familiar with God that I possibly can, so that when I look in the mirror, I never see me, but I see my best friend. And I hope that one day, when you look in the mirror, you can be able to see him too, because he loves you. So do I.
All right, I'd say that's a powerful conclusion to this episode. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you for tuning in, listeners, to this episode of Omnipresent Information Connection. As always, we'll meet you on the next episode.
This has been another life-enhancing, authenticated podcast aired by the OIC and brought to you by the faithful OIC sponsors and contributors. Please tune in every week and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're there, explore our website with all the posts, videos, and podcasts that we have created with you in mind. While you're on the journey through our website, you will see our Patreon page where you can become a faithful contributor yourself with the freedom to be a part of our team today. Thank you.